over 55 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by the Georgia Farm Bureau in association with Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College.
And so it begins. Another Farm Monitor experience, just like it has every week since 1966. Welcome all. So glad you tuned in. I'm Ray D'Alessio.
And I'm Jennifer Parson. Thanks for joining Ray and I. Sit back and relax because we've got a good show for you today. Coming up, a shortage of rural vets puts Georgia livestock producers at risk. However, new legislation could be a game changer. Fresh berries, farm fresh eggs, and life lessons. How one family's dream is blossoming into something special in Pike County.
And then later in the show, get ready to go nuts. Literally, we're back in the food lab with Dr. Tracey Brigman, who's whipping up not one, but two peanut-packed recipes that are equal parts sweet and savory. All this and so much more right now on the Farm Monitor.
Finding a large animal vet in rural Georgia isn't always easy, but as John Holcomb reports, a new bill aims to change that by boosting support for veterinarians who serve those hard-to-reach communities.
For livestock producers in Georgia, veterinary care is not just a convenience, it's a lifeline. And with a growing shortage of large animal veterinarians in rural areas, lawmakers have stepped up to do something about it. House Bill 172. A bill that will strengthen an existing loan repayment program for veterinarians by making it more accessible and more impactful.
Certainly, there's a recognized shortage of veterinarians, especially large animal veterinarians in rural Georgia, and this bill is going to help incentivize veterinarians, especially those that have graduated less than 10 years. So we're hopefully getting some more recent graduates and hopefully bringing them to communities, more so rural communities, to practice food animal medicine to help out our producers and farmers.
It is an existing program right now for veterinary medicine, but basically it's a one-year program that you have to reapply each and every year afterwards. So what we want to do is take it from 1 year to 3 year, and then that way basically you wouldn't have to reapply, but you just have to more or less say certify and document the area of work. And what that'll do is basically we want to help the rural communities because, like I said, that is the area of need. And so what we did within that also is basically within those rural communities, it was basically set with a population of 30,000 and below. So we increased that to 50,000 and below population with the 2020 census. And what that did was equivalent 118 counties that they can serve in those rural communities.
Under the new bill, eligible veterinarians would commit to working in rural areas for 3 years, which Huddleston says will hopefully solve the long-term problem.
Hopefully, like I said, if originally you applied for 1 year, you may not get accepted for the next year of application. By going to a 3 year, hopefully we get these individuals that will serve in these rural communities. And if they serve, let's say in those areas of 3 years, a lot of times they'll actually put roots down within those communities and they'll end up staying. So we hope that will incentivize, get them to actually stay and basically life begin in those rural communities.
Riddick says the financial burden many new veterinarians face is one of the biggest barriers to entering rural practice.
Veterinarians, regardless of what type of medicine you're going to go into, they all have, likely have student debt. The average student debt is about $185,000. And if you're going into a rural community, often there are not the same salary incentives or bonus program incentives that may be offered in more urban areas. So creating a financial incentive to go and move into these amazing communities that rural medicine and rural communities offer. It's a lifestyle choice that people are choosing, but they still need to be able to pay off their loans so they can have some successes in life. And this, I think bill will really highlight that. Over the course of 3 years, they can have payment of up to repayment on their student loans of up to $100,000, which can certainly offset those loans.
Reporting in Atlanta for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Well, spring is finally here, and that means folks all over Georgia are ready to get outside and enjoy the sunshine. And if you're looking for a fun spot to do just that, Jennifer, there's no shortage of agritourism destinations to check out, including one certified farm market that's not only serving up family fun, but fresh eggs too. Damon Jones has the story from Pike County.
After years of planning and preparing the land, Red Tip Farms in Meansville finally opened their doors in May of last year. This U-Pick operation and farm market provides the community with fresh berries and produce, and the next generation with a valuable learning experience.
To have this piece of property here, I live next door, and so was able to utilize this and was like, hey, what better chance than to put in a U-Pick operation and start this little agritourism farm here. And so it has done really well and grown every year. So it's been a blessing and showed my kids the value of $1 and being able to work, just not handing out money and just be able to come out here and work for what they have. And so it's really taught them life lessons for sure.
With the price and scarcity of eggs over the past few months, this is a welcome sight for visitors, and they are snapping them up just as quickly as they can be produced.
Yes, we're very small. We have just 15, 20 chickens, and we have a small amount of eggs available. But yes, by all means, this year has definitely seen a big increase in the demand for eggs. As quick as I put them out, they're gone usually within the day. So definitely the market has had shortages, obviously, and see that.
With the highly pathogenic avian influenza on the top of everyone's mind, Bachelor is not just keeping a close watch on his chickens' condition, but also their diet.
My chickens seem to be pretty healthy, and we do feed them some whole grains because of the row crop side of things I'm involved with, rowing wheat and corn and different things. And so I feed them, that type stuff versus some processed foods, other chicken foods that you would buy normally in the store. So, but we haven't seen any problems in my crop or herd.
However, the main attraction is the U-Pick blueberries and blackberries that will be available early next month. And so far, it appears to be a strong crop.
So far, we're blessed this year. Blackberries are looking great. Blueberries, we have dodged a few cold mornings, but we've been blessed to dodge some bullets on that. We do have a bumper crop so far. Of course, we're still a few weeks out from being in the clear, but so far we have a great crop. This year's looking good.
And so is business, thanks in large part to the participation in Georgia Farm Bureau's Certified Farm Market Program.
It has definitely, gotten me way more customers that would have never found me out here on, off this beaten path, if you will, even though we're on a state highway, would have never been in the Meansville area or Pike County area. And so they definitely have found me and been a blessing and been more revenue for me. And of course, obviously it promotes Farm Bureau as well. So it's been a good thing for sure.
Reporting from Meansville, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Calling all peanut lovers, Dr. Tracey Brigman is back with a duo of delicious dishes, a chewy peanut snack bar and savory peanut crusted chicken tenders. Yeah, we're getting nutty when the Farm Monitor returns.
Ray D'Alessio back here with you on the Farm Monitor. Parents, listen up. As the school year slowly comes to a close, you may be asking yourself, how on earth am I going to keep my teen or teens both busy and inspired this summer? Well, consider this incredible event from ABAC and the Georgia Association of Conservation Districts. It's called the Natural Resources Conservation Workshop. It's a week-long hands-on adventure for rising 10th through 12th graders and runs through June 8th through the 13th. Campers who attend will dive into the world of forestry, wildlife, water quality, and more, all taught by experts from Georgia's top environmental agencies. Held on the campus of ABAC, additionally, students get a real taste of college life, complete with field trips, interactive labs, and outdoor fun, all while exploring future careers in conservation and natural resources. And who knows, the experience could even lead to scholarships. Just ask former camper turned instructor Jacob Turner.
That's what got me involved in conservation. It later on encouraged me to run to be a soil and water supervisor for my county, and just opening up so many doors for me. Just things I'd never even thought about. I went to that camp for a week. I left with a whole new mindset.
So the significance of the event is really to promote conservation opportunities to our state's youth. You know, there are many job opportunities in conservation, and really our goal is to just educate these students on really promising futures in the careers in conservation and also agriculture.
So now that we have your attention, deadline to register is May 7th. You can do so by logging on to abac.edu/NRCW. Everything you need right at your fingertips. Any additional questions, you can also call the number on your screen, 229-391-5072.
During our trip to ABAC, we also caught up with a familiar face in a brand new role. Dr. Andrew Thurin has officially been named the new Dean of Ag and Natural Resources. He first joined ABAC in 2020 as the head of the Department of Agricultural Education and Communication. Now as Dean, Dr. Thurin says he's excited about the possibilities this new role presents, not just for him, but for the future of ag education at ABAC.
You know, it's probably means more work, honestly. But I look forward to the opportunities. It's an opportunity to, you know, now represent the whole school of ag and natural resources. And so now going from a day-to-day thinking and operations of ag education and ag communications to majors within my department head duties to really thinking about the whole school in general, which encompasses agriculture, natural resources, wildlife law enforcement, as well as the department that I'm currently representing.
All right, all you foodie and farm-to-table enthusiasts, it's the moment you've been waiting for, that moment when we share a couple of minutes with Dr. Tracey Brigman. She joins us once again. Good to see you, Tracey.
Good to see you.
So today our theme on Meals from the Field, everybody's favorite here in Georgia, peanuts.
Yes, we got some great peanut recipes.
Let's get to it.
All right, so the first one we're going to do is a peanut snack bar. So we're going to start by making a crust. So I have right here, I have a half a cup of butter that I melted, so that's 1 stick or half cup. And then I'm going to add 3/4 cup sugar. And I want to mix that together so that it's well mixed. So once I have that done, I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour that I don't want to dump, but kind of sprinkle it in there. So we have, after the 1.5 cups flour, that's 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And you're going to mix that together. It's going to make kind of a dough. While he is mixing that, I have prepared a 9x13 baking dish, and you can see I have some parchment paper in here because this is going to be kind of sticky, and if I don't have the parchment paper, it's going to be really hard to get out. I have my oven preheating at 350. What you're going to do is you're going to flatten this out to take up.
Them out?
Yep. We're making a crust. So we want it to fill the whole bottom.
They call me the matador.
That's right.
So everything's matted down.
Everything's matted down and well mixed together. So I'm going to stick this in the 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes. It's not going to cook completely. I just want to get the baking process started. While that is baking, I have measured out 3 cups of salted peanuts that I'm going to set aside because I will use those once that comes out of the oven. And then I'm going to do the topping. So I need a small saucepan, and I'm going to put that on medium-low because I don't want anything to burn. What I have here is 1.5 cups of baking chips. The recipe called for either butterscotch or caramel, and because I'm indecisive and like both, I put 3/4 of each and mix them together. But you can choose peanut butter baking chips, you can use chocolate, so whatever. It's 1.5 cups. I'm going to pour that into my saucepan. So 1.5 cups. Again, mine was a mixture of caramel and butterscotch chips. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. I kind of broke it up so that it melts easier instead of one big lump of butter. And then I have a half a cup of corn syrup. And then this is 1 tablespoon of water. And I'm just going to, again, stir this over medium-low heat until everything's melted. My butter's melted, my baking chips are melted. All right, so that's my crust that has baked about 10 minutes. Again, it's not completely done because I'm going to stick it back in the oven. our next step is to put my layers in. This is 3 cups of salted peanuts that I want to, and be very careful, the pan is hot, but I want to spread those evenly over my cookie crust. And then you can see here my butterscotch and caramel chips have melted, the butter has melted, and it's nice and smooth. So I am going to pour this as the next layer. It doesn't have to cover every single peanut, but just try to get some to the edges. Once it starts to bake, it'll melt a little bit more and spread out, but we want to try to spread it as much as possible. So once this is ready, we're going to stick it back in the oven at 350 for 12 to 14 minutes. Once my 12 to 14 minutes are up, I'm going to take it out of the oven, and then I need to let it cool completely. So that's going to take probably 4 or 5 hours. Once it's cooled completely, I am going to
Enjoy.
Yes, I'm going to enjoy it.
So now we move on from the sweet onto the savory, as in savory chicken.
That's right. We're going to do some peanut crusted chicken tenders. So we're going to set up our assembly line first. I have some oil heating on the stove. So in this bowl, I have 1 cup of all-purpose flour. In this bowl, I'm going to add 1 cup of water and 1 egg that I beat. Yep.
Oh, water.
Okay, because that's going to help the peanuts stick.
Okay.
In my little food processor, this is 1 cup of salted peanuts. So go ahead and press that down. All right, so you want these peanuts chopped to a very fine stage so that it has a better chance of sticking to my tenders. And I'm going to pour these in a 3rd bowl. So 3 bowls. Oop. And now we're going to do our assembly line. I have 1 pound of chicken breast tender strips. You can have the larger tenders if you want. These are smaller ones, so we're going to dip them in the flour first, and then in the egg and water wash, and then we're going to coat it with our finely chopped peanuts. I want to have all of my tenders ready before my oil's ready. All right, so we have run our chicken strips through the conveyor belt, and then we washed our hands because they were touching raw chicken. I have a 1/2 cup of canola oil. You can use your oil of choice. I like canola oil, and I have it on medium heat.
How about peanut oil?
You could use peanut oil, absolutely. And so then I'm just going to put this in my oil once it's heated to the appropriate temperature. And then you cook them about 3 to 5 minutes per side. These are smaller than tenders, so I would probably venture to guess it's going to be 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes. So put enough in. I don't want to overcrowd my pan. I want some room in between each one. I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. Check it. If it's not nice and brown, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer. Once it's nice and brown on that side, I'm going to flip it and cook it for an additional 3 to 5 minutes. And once I get all of my tenders cooked, I'm going to serve it with, you can serve it with a little bit of honey, your favorite dipping sauce, whatever goes with peanut taste.
And there you have it. 2 very simple recipes that you could find by logging on to farm-monitor.com, going to the top of that section, and you will see the recipe section up there. And again, these are very, very simple to make. If I can do it, you can do it as well. So Tracey, as always, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again next month.
All Americans should care about tax reform for agriculture, and this is why. Our family farms are already being threatened by rising costs and inflation, just like your families are. And new tax burdens, they would put pressure on our farms to the point where they may have to go out of business. That would cause more consolidation in our food system, and it could even cause us to depend more on imported food, which Americans really don't want to happen. They want to know where their food comes from, and they want it to come from America. We need to continue these tax provisions that we have so it helps our farmers be able to sustain themselves there. Because at the end of the day, food security in our country really provides us national security, because we don't have to depend on any other country to grow the food that we consume and our families consume every day. We can always depend on the American farmer to be there and deliver that quality of food. Tax reform is important to our farmers because it goes straight to the economic sustainability of our farms. Farmers are price takers, not price makers. That means that we take whatever the price is that people are offering to pay for the commodities that we produce. That means we run on very thin margins. And these small business tax provisions helps us keep us economically sustainable. The average age of the farmer across America is my age, and we have to find ways to be able to pass our farms on to the next generation so that we can continue to provide that food and fiber for our people here in America. Through estate tax exemptions, we're able to let our families inherit our land without having to sell parts of it off to pay the tax burden. Farmers have America's back by providing the food, fiber, and fuel that we all depend on. But the American people can have the farmers back by supporting tax provisions that allow us to keep our farms in business.
Finally this week, since taking the helm of the United Soybean Board, CEO Lucas Lynch has made it his mission to listen, learn, and connect. Here now, his personal reflection on time spent building bonds with the farmers he serves.
Well, if I was to look back from the last year, in December of 2023, I stood in front of the United Soybean Board for the first time as their newly appointed CEO, and I could not have been more thrilled at that moment to look out over the course of 2024 and started to see a path forward as a new leader in the system. If there's one thing that's near and dear to my heart is farmer voice, and this year I feel a culmination of my entire professional career being wrapped up around what farmers are looking for out of this role, but also out of this organization. You know, a year ago, the executive committee asked me what I thought about getting out to see farmers. And I said, you know, I'm committed to getting out as I can, where I can. And here we are 7, 8 months later, and actually have successfully been on 67 of those farms. Why is that important? You know, it's one thing to know your board, it's another to meet your board members where they are. I'm not talking at the board anymore. I'm really talking with the board. And that's the conversation I think that's most important, that serves America's soybean farmer. Personally, it was like unwrapping a present every time I drove up a driveway and got out to meet the family, to meet the farmer, to meet the pets, to get a chance to see the equipment, the fields. Is an education, and one that I will always treasure. And frankly, I'm going to look to the future every year with the idea that somehow, somewhere, I'm going to get out on the farms and continue to key in on those new relationships of this board, but also make that investment of time because it pays huge dividends.
And there you have it. Big thanks to the United Soybean Board for that.
And as always, thanks to you for checking out the Farm Monitor. Have a great week.